What's up, everybody? It's Glenn back with Big Jack for the NFC North divisional preview. The Bears have the longest odds to win the NFC North at plus 600, probably rightfully so. Lowest win total from last year. And then the three playoff teams from the NFC North last year, Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, in order from longest odds to shortest. Green Bay's the favorites heading into the season. We come fresh off the news that Micah Parsons has been dealt to the Green Bay Packers from the Dallas Cowboys. Jack, any instant thoughts on that trade? And after that, any thoughts on the NFC North at first glance?
Instant thoughts on the trade are obviously it's great short term for the Packers. I don't know if it's a horrible trade long term for the Cowboys, honestly, but maybe I'll be proven wrong on that. I'm sure if the Packers, contend, if they get to NFC Championship 2 years, get to the Super Bowl 1 year, it'll certainly be well worth it. I would take it. I don't know enough about Green Bay's cap situation, but I do know that they're giving a lot of money to Jordan Love, who I'm not the biggest fan of, and now they're giving a lot of money to Micah Parsons, who's not a fan of Micah Parsons, but I don't know what that looks like beyond this year. But yeah, they're tough to argue with them being in the mix right away. I know that when I took some notes about this division, that the Lions were the favorite at plus 160. So obviously it's swung enough where people are falling head over heels for Green Bay. I'm not quite there. I still think that, I will say this was probably the toughest division for me, even though I feel like I know it the most to kind of predict. There's so much uncertainty everywhere you look. The Lions are great. They were incredible last year. I always call them a house of cards. Sort of proved to be true in the playoffs. But the roster remains the same. They lose Ragnow. That's a big loss on the line. They lose both coordinators. Ben Johnson goes to the Bears. Aaron Glenn goes to the Jets. Too much unpredictability there for me to know or have a good vibe of what that team's going to look like going into the season. Vikings, great year last year, win 14 games. Sam Darnold moves on to Seattle. Good for him. Got a good contract. They're going to start J.J. McCarthy, who's a second-year guy, but it's coming off an injury, didn't play at all his rookie season. I don't know what that looks like either. I trust Kevin O'Connell. I think they maybe have the best roster in the division, arguably, but I have no idea what J.J. McCarthy looks like. Then, you look at the Bears. They bring in Ben Johnson, first-time head coach. I have a lot of high hopes. I have some pretty lofty expectations, but not this season. Honestly, I don't. I don't think the Bears are going to be very, very good from a wins and losses perspective. I just don't see it happening. And then the Packers, they got Matt LaFleur. They got Jordan Love. That's probably the steadiest position in the division, which is, kind of lends itself to, especially after the Micah Parsons addition, to why, I could wrap my head around the logic of them being so well thought of. But as I stated, I'm not the biggest Jordan Love fan. I don't see it with him. I don't understand. I realize he sort of flashed that first year and they won some playoff games. He had some great performances. Turns the ball over too much. I know he's like a analytical darling. His EPA per play stuff is all awesome and blah, blah, blah. And I get that matters, but I just can't find it in me to think that Jordan Love is going to be a true difference maker out there. I think Matt LaFleur is one of the best coaches in the NFL. I would take Lions to win the division. That's probably my favorite bet in here. That's probably all I really have any sort of confidence in. It was plus 160. Like I said, I haven't looked at the updated odds.
Plus 190.
Yeah, so I'll take the extra 30 cents every day of the week. But that's still where my head's at. I still think the Lions win the division, and I don't feel overly confident about a side any which way beyond that.
My best bet of the NFC North is the under 10.5 for Detroit. The over's 9.5, minus 155. Under at 10.5 is minus 145. I'll lay it. I think 10.5 is a big number. Last season they played a lot of dome games, like you said, which I guess notoriously Jared Goff is really good in a dome, really good in climate-controlled games. They lose both coordinators. They lose some other ancillary coaches as well, which do matter in my mind. Dan Campbell, he is the guy there. The GM, Brad Holmes, is good, in my opinion, but I see them taking a pretty big step back. Aiden Hutchinson, who knows how he returns from that injury. I just don't see it in Detroit. I think last year was their chance to capture some greatness. Everything lined up for them, and they just couldn't snag it. And I think they come back down to earth a little bit this year. After the Parsons signing, I think the Packers are probably the class of the division, unfortunately. I hate to say it, but I think their defense is going to be pretty damn good. Their coaching staff's good. I will say I don't know if I have all the confidence in the world in Jordan Love, but I also don't think he's going to be terrible. So we'll see. Definitely a competitive division. I do think the Bears could take a step up. I think there is a chance Detroit, Minnesota take a step back, but we'll see. I could see a world like what you're saying. Things are on are positive momentum for Chicago. You feel good about the season, but at the same time doesn't result in anything better than a fourth-place finish. I could see that happening. Once again, my best bet of the NFC North, under 10.5 for Detroit.
Yeah, much tougher schedule this year for the NFC North in general, too. Obviously, it's a really strong division, just, beating up on each other twice a year. But they get the AFC North now too. They got the AFC South last year. They got the NFC South last year. They just got a lot tougher games on their schedule, man, for all those guys. Outside of the gauntlet that is the division already. So I don't hate your logic. I certainly don't see, just because I like Detroit to repeat and win the division still, until someone knocks them off their horse. I don't love anyone else off the jump here, but I certainly don't see a 15-win Detroit again. I certainly don't see a 14-win Minnesota. I do think this division winner will be in that 11, maybe someone squeaks to 12 ballpark because of the competition level has just kind of risen, and those schedules are that much tougher. So, yeah, I think the Bears is tough for me. I mean, we'll eventually next week, but, leading into the season, we'll kind of deep dive that and discuss it a little bit more. Honestly, I probably see some good value in their under the win total. I see a scenario where the Bears go 7-10, and I come away from this season feeling pretty good, depending on how that looks, for the obvious reasons with Caleb Williams' development. But yeah, I don't see them making a ton of noise. I don't know. I guess if I was going to lean into like any sort of longer odds, I would take a flyer on the Vikings just because I think that roster is so good. If J.J. McCarthy is decent, and I'm sure that Kevin O'Connell will put him in excellent positions to exceed. I like the Lions. I'm taking the Lions plus 190. That is done, written in stone. But I think I would take the Vikings over the Packers. I still think this division finishes the same way that it did last year. Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears. But I think they only get 2 in. I think someone's going to miss out.
Yeah, I think last year might have been a rare thing with how much the NFC North beat up on everybody else. And I think two teams is what you can expect. That probably means the Bears will be the third team if I just know how things work out. But we'll see. I think it's an exciting division. I think Parsons getting added adds a layer of excitement, even though it's frustrating that it's with the hated Packers. I think there's going to be a lot of fun divisional games. If Caleb steps up and starts playing like a number 1 overall pick and the offensive line in front of him looks good and the coaching looks good, could see the Bears taking a step, but there's still some questions on the rest of the roster. I'm just going to keep harping on. I think the best bet is Lions take a step back, under 10.5. That's what my head and heart says.
Yeah. I mean, even though I like the Lions to win, I wouldn't bet their over wins. I just think it's going to be a knockdown drag out in that division over the course of the season. The other thing that's just going totally against every word I've said about the Packers offense and Jordan Love, beyond the 190 with the Lions, I love Matthew Golden, Offensive Rookie of the Year, plus 2,000.
Fair enough. I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of the draft, but I think there are some pretty strong reports coming out of Green Bay. So we'll see how.
I mean, they had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers for 4 decades. They finally are drafting a wide receiver in the first round. Maybe that tells you what they think about Jordan Love. Maybe they feel like he does need a little help, but I don't know. I also think that there's a good chance that they finally did something like that for the first time in forever for a pretty intentional reason, and Matt LaFleur is going to be feeding that boy the ball.
Yeah, plus 2,000, some good juice too. So, all right, brother, that's all for the NFC North divisional preview. We'll be back next week with our best bets and Bears previews. Feels good to have football back. Starting with some college football tonight, but we'll be back with some NFL stuff next week. Make sure to like and subscribe.